Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar from Anicca Digital. It's my turn this week. Again, I'm going to be doing digital marketing you can do in your pajamas. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing with and without a marketing budget. Now, I have made this presentation before, but this has been updated as things start to ease with the lockdown. As we get more and more people actually come onto the webinar, we just allow a few minutes for everybody to join. I'm going to set off a couple of polls, and you'll be able to answer the polls, and we'll be able to see what's going on. Good morning, Ian. One of our regular attendees, Ian, and also one of our favourite clients has just come on board. So I'm going to start the first poll. I will be reading it out so that people that see the recording will know what I'm talking about. So hopefully, people are starting to answer now. So you should be able to see the poll on your screen. Jess, can you see? Is it coming up? I'm not getting any answers yet. I'll read the questions out. So, has your business or the company that you work for been affected by the lockdown and the current crisis? Now, you're only allowed to answer one of these. So if you want to change your mind, you can. So the first answer is no change. We've not seen big changes in demand and have carried on as normal. We've got some positive ones. So a slight increase in demand or have pivoted our offer. A significant increase in demand in some or all areas. Well, you guys are the lucky ones. A slight decrease in demand, but all our staff are working. A scary decrease up to 50% in demand and some of the staff are furloughed. A decrease, and I put it in this format, a disastrous decrease of more than 50% in demand and most staff are furloughed. It's a total nightmare. We are closed and or no one is working. And then finally, I've got another option for people like students who weren't working before. So it's quite an interesting mix, actually. As I suspected, 30% have a scary decrease, which is up to 50%, and we fall into that category. And some of the staff are furloughed, and I think that is pretty much what about 25% of companies in the UK are in that boat. A few of you, 8%, have had no real change, and everybody's working as normal. And there's a lucky 14% of you that have had a significant increase in demand. And then I'm really sorry to say that nearly 20% of you have had a complete nightmare, and you're either closed or no one's working. And I suspect that's going to be pretty much indicative of the sectors that you're in. So I think that's really interesting. And we've definitely got about a third that have got some staff furloughed. So that seems to be the most popular. Okay, so my next question, sorry, I pressed the wrong button, is what do you think will happen as we come out of the lockdown and for the rest of the year? Now, you are allowed to answer more than one here, because it may be that more than one will apply to you. So I'll just read the answers out to this one. So there's been no change during or after the lockdown, so pretty much as it was at the beginning of the year. Expect a rapid return to pre-lockdown demand and income, which of course is very positive. Expect a very slow return to pre-lockdown demand, as you know, even in going into 2021. Our business may not recover or will be significantly reduced, which is obviously quite a sad outcome for some businesses. Our business will probably have to close, or it already has closed, which again is a really sad outcome. On the positive side, we hope to retain our increased or changed business. We may not retain what we've recently found, because obviously if you've pivoted to something like PPE, the demand for that may actually go away. I still can't plan or predict what will happen. That's probably we've got about 16% of that. Other does not apply. So the most popular answer is 16%, or 32%, sorry. And that's that you expect a very slow return to pre-lockdown demand into 2021, and 20% expect a rapid return, and another 17% are saying that you just can't predict what's going to happen. It's still a little bit too early. Okay, well, hopefully that was useful. You should be able to sort of see those on the screen. Let me just check how many people are now in the room, and then we can get going. So we have got 66 attendees, so that's our record so far. So let's see if we can break that next week with Chris, and let's get going. So digital marketing you can do in your pajamas. Now, I'm hoping to make this a little bit more interactive. I've got a couple of screens to show you as well. As I said, this is an update of a presentation I actually did at the end of April, because as the signs that things are starting to open again, I wanted to update it and actually bring in a little bit more insight about what you should be doing as we come out of the lockdown. So a little bit about me. A majority of the people probably know me in the room, but I'm the founder and managing director of Anicca Digital. Anicca Digital's been around since 2007. I originally came to Leicester over 40 years ago to study biology, so I'm a scientist at heart. And in fact, last month I celebrated my 60th birthday, which was a bit weird in lockdown because we were going to do lots of big parties and things. On the left hand side you can see our office, which is by the river in Frog Island in Leicester. It's an old converted pub, and we are missing it, and we will be going back to part-time at some point in the next month or two. And then you've got a picture of the team, and the drum award that we won last year for our work with Switch My Business, which was to do with Salesforce integration into Google AdWords. And then a little bit about my personal life. I've got my family pictures there. At last I've been able to see my grandkids, which has been amazing. I believe Formula One is starting next month as well, and you might see my cat appear in the picture at some point, but the Maine Coon cats are about twice the size of that now, so that's enough for me for now anyway. With regards to Anicca, these are some of the brands that we work with. We work with some great local brands. We have about 40 clients in both B2B and B2C, a mix of e-commerce and lead generation. And it's mainly high growth and high tech businesses that are looking for sort of really techie support. But we do a lot of training, and we do these webinars basically to help everybody. We also run Leicester Digital, etc. So quite a mix of things that we get up to. Okay, so what am I going to cover today? So first of all, I'm going to do a little bit of the background on this. I found quite a lot of research on some of the reasons to maintain or increase your marketing during the lockdown. And during the recession. So although the lockdown is starting to sort of open up and release a little bit as more and more businesses get back to normal, with the exception of sort of the events and hospitality sector, we are still expecting quite a significant recession. And we realise that as we come out of the recession, you know, we're going to need to change the communication. So what I've done is I've actually included some of the slides that I had before, because a lot of them we're going to just have to do in reverse, and there's some checklists in there for you. I've added a new section in about auditing yourself and doing a bit of competitive research. That's the bit I quite like to show you live. And then we're also going to go in and start talking about some tactics that you can actually implement. And this is the bit that you can do at home, whether you're in your pajamas or working from home. You can actually get on and actually do some marketing activities, even if you've not got a marketing budget. So there's lots of stuff you can do if you've been furloughed, or if you've not been furloughed, you've probably got a bit more time on your hands because you're not traveling as much, if you're not completely zoomed out from all the Zoom meetings. But we'll give you some ideas of some things that if you haven't already started, you should still be considering, even though we're nearly, well, I think we've been in lockdown for just a week short of 3 months now, because we went in to working from home a little bit earlier than the government recommended. I've also got a section in what to do if you have got some marketing budget, and there's some tips about mainly on paid search and paid social. And if Chris joins us, he's probably got his camera off, but I'll perhaps get him to comment in on that area as well. And then a couple of other things on some other activities that you should be doing now. Now, obviously, as we get closer to actually a lockdown opening and businesses speeding up again, you're going to have less and less time. So it's really, really important that if you're going to do some of this, you actually knuckle down and start getting on with it, even if it's this weekend, because suddenly the time will disappear and you'll look back and think, well, what did I spend my time doing? Okay, so the next thing we're going to cover is, the reasons to maintain or increase your marketing. So this is some research that I found when I did the original presentation. And the key aspect of this is that it's really, really important to keep on marketing throughout a recession as much as you can, even if it's just to keep your brand out there. We call it keeping the lights on. And the reason is that research shows that if you carry on being visible during a recession, when the recession finishes, you will be remembered and you're more likely to grow. So you can see that in the graph. So the take-home message is really that you've got to outmarket your competitors. In other words, if all your competitors stop altogether, you can actually get away with doing very little. But if your competitors are very active, you've got to be more active in order to get the visibility with the clients that are still searching. I think there's a great meme going around that I don't have to run as fast as a bear if I'm being chased. I just have to run faster than the person I'm with. So yeah, absolutely. You just got to keep on active and try and be doing more. And a lot of people will regard this, particularly if you've been through, if you're as old as me, I've been through 3 recessions. I actually did my degree, came out of my university in 81 when Maggie Thatcher had basically put us into a massive recession and there were no jobs at all for graduates, which is probably what it's going to be like, you know, for graduates finishing this year. So this will be my 3rd or 4th recession. And basically, when we founded Anicca in the recession, we just worked really, really hard and just got out there and made lots of contacts. And that's basically what we've been trying to do by doing lots of webinars and providing lots of free resources. So if we look at another reason why you know, you should be marketing, it will really be very, very sector specific. So there's lots of tools out there. This is SEO monitors data, but I've seen lots of other people offer similar tools. And what it shows is the amount of searches for specific key phrases in particular sectors. So the one on the left is fitness equipment, and you can see that that has actually gone up by something like, I can't read that very well from here, 65% for the word fitness equipment. But the actual topic, which is a group of key phrases, has gone up by about 40%. Now, if you look on the right, restaurants near me halved pretty much overnight. And, you know, lots of topics, keywords around that topic, you know, dropped as well. So if we went and did this research now, what we'd start to expect to see is as these sectors like gyms and things start to open, or restaurants in this case start to open, and other types of shops and services start to get more demand, those figures will change. And I think it's really important that you keep an eye on these huge swings in demand for certain products and services. Another area that you need to be aware of is the fact that there's been massive increase in internet traffic. And that's because everybody's working from home. And at one point, there was nearly 50% of the UK were working from home. Obviously, essential workers and people that actually have to go to work weren't able to do that. But a lot of the research, and we've even done the research within our own team, thinks that people will probably spend about 50% of their time working from home going forward. So many companies will reduce the number of days that the offices are open. They'll be offering some form of flexi time. So that increase in internet traffic will continue. And we've also seen this with things like Sky and TV. There's been Netflix, of course. They've had massive increases in demand. So there's more traffic, there's more places where people can actually put advertising if they want to. Another area that you need to look at is whether the advertising costs are cheaper. Now, I did quite a lot of research around this about a month ago. And what we notice is that this is quite platform specific. So you can see the top 2 are Facebook and the bottom one on the right is LinkedIn. And in those platforms, you predominantly pay on a cost per 1,000 basis, which means you basically pay when your ads are shown. And what we see is that there's been a significant drop in the cost of this. And interestingly, it's working at between about £3 and £5 cost per 1,000 views, which is a lot cheaper than it has been, particularly LinkedIn, where it was sort of up at £20 at one point. Now, Google's got a much more mixed story. and it really depends on the sector that you're in. And so we found a couple of clients where the cost per click had gone down, but actually, contrary to that, we'd actually got examples where competition had increased and actually cost per clicks had gone up. But the good thing here is that in some types of ad objectives, particularly in some of the Facebook ad objectives, you do have a choice between paying on a CPC or a CPM basis. Now, if you are paying on a CPM basis, your audience is going to be massive. So you've got the potential of a lot more people seeing your ads, and a lot of them may be irrelevant. So if it's possible, you might want to consider switching to a CPC, or you might want to narrow down your audiences and get rid of some irrelevant stuff, which you can do if you look into the insights, and actually check what the way that you're paying. Also, if your audiences are too small, and this is particularly relevant in Facebook, if they go less than 50,000, then your costs will go up. So you don't want to go too niche, because that can be a disadvantage as well. Now, one of the approaches that we've taken, and I've seen a few people do this, not as many as I would have expected, to be honest, is right from day one, we decided that we were going to really try and help people by offering free time, which all of our heads of department have been doing, offering an hour of free consultancy. We've been running webinars. We've given free access to the training materials in our academy site. And what you see is loads of sort of positive comments about how helpful that is. And that's all about really trying to be remembered afterwards that you did the right thing, and you tried to help people rather than sort of buckering down and going very quiet. Now, obviously, it really depends on your particular sector. And some, if you're a restaurant, a lot of people have been doing really great things by, trying to give free meals away and trying to help other key workers or even the homeless. But try and get some PR about the good things that you do if you have been doing that, rather than, just keeping your light under a bushel, as it's called, and not really shouting about the good stuff. And also, do be careful if you do something a bit stupid. There's lots of examples of bad publicity. People like Richard Branson have come in for a lot of stick. Then, it's going to be quite difficult to recover some of the bad stuff as well. Okay, so let's go into a bit more of the detail. So the next thing we need to talk about is, coming out of the lockdown and communicating with clients. So I have kept in my original slides and added some notes on this, because really a lot of the things that you might have done at the beginning, you might start having to reverse as circumstances change. So this might be updating your website and things like opening times. But don't just think about your website. You don't want to be finding 6 months later, you go onto Google My Business pages, or you do a search for your brand on Google, and you see that you're still shut down because of, you've left the message unopened. So just be careful about that. Just publish any changes to operating procedures. Make sure it's really prominent on the homepage, and review any recurring things like, paid ads and sponsorships and any things like that. And you also should change your email autoresponders as circumstances change at the moment. We've got quite a generic one that sort of says that we're working from home and some staff have been furloughed and that somebody will get back to them. We've been quite deliberately not, pointing out individuals that are furloughed and making it a generic message so everybody can get it, except for me, because I'm working most of the time anyway. Another thing you want to look at is using social media in the communication, particularly for customer service, because I've noticed people like Sky, they basically try not to get you to call their call centres. And so what they do, they revert you to either chats or to the website. Social media can often be a much more effective way of getting that communication and delivering it almost in real time. So, do check what your messages say. If you're using Hootsuite or another scheduling software, make sure you update that. If you've already got a Facebook group, you might want to change that. And also, if you've been using Facebook Messenger, you might want to automate that in the same way that you have done your email. But one of the points I wanted to raise is a lot of the research has been about the fact that behaviours have changed. People have got new habits. we've been in lockdown for a long time now. So a lot of people are never going to go back to working the way they did before. And this is particularly likely to affect things like the amount of traveling that we do, the amount of meetings we do. People will continue to work with Zoom and Google Meets and Teams, and people's behavior will change forever. And so what you've got to be considering is that, some of the things that you've introduced while the lockdowns happened will become the norm. And so it's really, really important that you actually address some of those issues. And you may well want to, make this the normal way of doing things, or the new normal, or the new abnormal, as I've also heard it called. Some of the research that we can do relates to looking at your site and looking at some of your competitors' sites. So I'll just show you the slides and then I'll go live and show you how I found these. I think I'll do it that way around because it's easier. Okay, so the first thing you need to be doing is checking out your analytics and what's really happening. And one of the things that we always recommend is that you annotate analytics along the bottom. And so you put key events in there. I mean, you should do this anyway. So for example, if you change the design of the website or you launch a new website, that would be a classic example. But you could be doing things like changing the ad spend, turning on and off ad spend, changing office hours, any announcements. I think my cat's going to come and say hello, so you may see a ginger cat in a minute. Also, you really need some alerts set up. So if you've got sudden swings in traffic, this could be increases or decreases. And then you want to go into the detail in a little bit more in a forensic way and try and understand what's actually happening. Are people searching on different products? Are they looking, different landing pages getting more visits? And are you providing users with what they actually need? So I've got some examples here of some clients that we're working with. I won't name the clients, and I've deliberately left off the y-axis so you can't see the actual number of visits, and in this case it's actually users. So you can get to this in analytics by going over to the acquisition part of analytics. And if you think about analytics, it uses a ABC approach, and that is acquisition, audience, behavior, and conversion. So I'm in the acquisition bit. My cat has come to see us. So I'm in all acquisition, all traffic and channels. And what you've got is the daily number of users. And you can see for postal services, when the lockdown happened at the end of, towards the end of March, you got this massive spike in activity due to the fact that there was a lot of new users wanting to use these online postal services. And not only that, the existing users were coming back, working from home, and suddenly this was really, really important to them. So this particular client, and if they're in the room, I'm quite happy for you to put in the chat who you are, but I'll keep it confidential at this point. The next one is fitness equipment, and what happened for them is that they actually had to stop their advertising a little bit before the lockdown because a lot of their equipment was coming in from Asia, so they were having supply issues. But this finished quite quickly because China and Asia came out of the lockdown pretty quickly. And what you saw was as everybody started to work from home, you got this massive increase in demand for their performance and equipment that you can actually use at home. Now, recruitment was interesting because this really depended on what recruitment client we looked at. And this particular recruitment client was providing a lot of essential services like warehouse and construction, where in some of those cases, they were still needing, people were still required. So you can see that the actual drop in traffic fell off a little bit later and actually hasn't declined quite as much and has leveled off but at a sort of a slightly lower level. The final one I've got to show you is promotional goods. And of course, the events industry, you can see they got hit quite early on as people started to cancel events, physical events. And you can see that they had a sort of a cliff edge here with it dropping, and then a subsequent reduction again, where people were holding on to their events in the autumn and they realised that they just weren't going to happen really until 21. But you can see then that there's been a slight increase again, because there's no reason why you can't send promotional goods through the post and actually keep relationships with clients going. My next slide on this area is Google rankings, and we use a tool called SEO Monitor, and this allows us to see two key metrics. The first is traffic. This is the traffic fluctuating on a day-to-day basis, and this is for a group of key phrases. This isn't all the traffic on the site. Also, this is only Google UK traffic, so of course you can get traffic from other sources. So this is sort of like a segment of the traffic. And then the dotted blue line at the top is actually the visibility score, which is an indication of your rankings in Google for that particular group of key phrases. And I've got two different clients here. Now, the first one, back on just after May the 4th, saw a significant drop in visibility score, and then a second drop around the 18th, around my birthday. Now, if you look at the bottom client, they actually saw a significant increase, and then a slight correction later on in the month, which meant that it settled out at somewhere between those two. And this is due to the fact that there was a Google core algorithm update, actually on May the 4th. So it was called the Star Wars update, because May the 4th be with you. But you can see that in this case, both of these clients have been hit in different ways, as positions were readjusted, with some clients getting hit and some weren't. And one thing you can do is you can go and do a search in Google and go to the news tab. When I originally did this presentation, I was doing this at Leicester University. So in this particular slide, it's quite difficult to see the detail, but we've got one's Leicester University and one's De Montfort University, which actually are both clients of ours. We work with both of them. We've got students and placements from both the universities. But it was quite a good example, because you can see the different things that they were doing. And there was lots of publicity around COVID and things like giving PPE away earlier on. So that's just a good way of finding out what they're doing with their PR, what they're actually getting out published in the media. The next one I wanted to show you was the ads library, and this is one of the ones that I want to show you live. And this is where you can go to the Facebook ads library and you can actually do research on a competitor, or you can go and look for a key phrase and see what sorts of ads are there. And in this case, I've got the DMU. And then also the other thing you can do is you can actually go to the live LinkedIn page, which I've also set up to show you, and actually go to the ads tab on the left. And within the business page, you can actually see the ads are running. So I'm just going to share my screen for a second, and I'm going to let me show you the Facebook one. So hopefully you can all see this. So if I put in university in there, let's just put that one in. I think it's running. Yep. So we've got different universities there. University of Sussex. We've got Sade Business School, which is where I did my Goldman Sachs course. Let's just go and see if they're running ads. And what you can see at the bottom is that these are the ads that they're running at the bottom there, and you can do that for any client or any business. If I then go over to LinkedIn, which hopefully you should see as well, I'm on De Montfort University's page. There's a couple of things that I can do here. I can go down to the ads tab, which is where I am at the moment, and I can see their ads that they've been running. And the other thing you might want to do, if you're looking at a customer or a client and they employ more than 30 people, if you go to the Insights tab, you do have to pay for this. You can actually see whether their number of employees is going up and down. And this is actually something that you can now target with LinkedIn. You can look for high growth companies as well. So both really interesting ways of doing research for your clients. So I'm just now going to open my slides again. I may well have to, I'm on the right place, which is good. Hopefully you can all see that. And I'm going to stop sharing the page I was on before. Jess, can you unmute your mic, or can somebody leave me a message? Can you see this? As everybody can see it? If somebody can leave me a chat message.
Yes, I can see on the PowerPoint.
Okay, cool. So I should be on the use LinkedIn to understand your web visitors. So the other thing that you can do, which we probably haven't got time, thanks, Jess, we probably haven't got time to do, is if you actually have a, thank you guys, if you actually have a set up the LinkedIn Insight pixel or the tag and put that onto your website, you actually have to create a ads campaign for this, but you don't actually have to spend any money. What you can do is, once the LinkedIn pixel is firing and you're sending messages over to LinkedIn, it will start to see the actual traffic on your website, and and it also gives you this if you're running ads as well. And when you're actually in the campaign manager, you can see there's a tab here which says website demographics, and then if you click on that tab, you can choose from all these different sort of criteria. I'm on job title at the moment. But you can include things like job function, industry, seniority, location, even company name. And what that does is it gives you information about who's visited your site in the last 30 days. And you can see here, I've got managing director, marketing. I can't read this. I'm sorry, my screen's at quite low resolution. But you've got director there, and you can see the percentage and whether it's going up and down. So this is a really good way of understanding who's coming to your website and whether you are actually attracting the right people. And this could be because of the type of content you've got or the type of marketing that you're doing. Okay, so the next section is to look at what you should be doing if you've got no marketing budget, but you've got lots of time on your hands. So the first thing is housekeeping. So one of the things that you can do is audit your site and all your marketing you've been doing. And I've got a little plug here for the A10 marketing framework, which is the 50-page document that you can download from the website at this link. Now, the reason this is really useful is there's a whole table of auditing tools that you can click through in the PDF version. And this allows you to actually audit your site. Now, one word of warning there, we do find that actually a lot of the tools don't necessarily give you the right answer. So if you're looking at technical issues and you find that they're all flagging up similar problems, then you really should speak to an SEO consultant. And perhaps, you could come on and grab an hour of somebody like Suk's time. But if you have got them giving you conflicting information, you will really need to dive into it in a little bit more detail. Another thing you can do is look at the content on your site and update it. And there's two real ways of going at this problem. The first is to look into analytics, which I've got here. And in this case, I'm in the behavior section, and I'm in site content and all pages. And I'm looking at the most popular content. And you can see in the last couple of months, one of our blog articles has proved to be very popular. So this will give you a sort of priority list, but also what you probably need to do is click on the pages from the main menus and then review the text on the most important pages. Now, I've just seen Suk has messaged and said that if any of you want some help, if you email him on suk@anicca.co.uk, he's happy to have a look for you and possibly run your site through Deep Crawl or one of our tools and see if you've got any issues. So if any of you got any concerns on that, Suk is offering to help. Thank you, Suk. That's really helpful. Okay, other activities that you may want to start, and I've sort of looked at a few of these. So this is some stuff that Suk provided earlier. So you may want to pivot your strategy going in and after the lockdown. And this is because we're going to see massive fluctuations in organic listings because things like the amount of ads that have changed. But also, while all this has been kicking off, you might come back and look at your analytics and realise that there's a massive problem because you've been hit by the core update. So please have a look at your analytics, look at the ranking tools. And if you don't have a ranking tool, we can put your data through our tool and tell you if you've got a problem. So if you suspect there's a problem, then you really should have a look at what's been going on. Also, so could you put in the chat the name of the tool that we use that overlays your analytics to give you an idea of how if they coincide with the any of the algorithm changes. I think it's from Barracuda, but I can't remember the name of it. So if you could possibly put a link in the chat, that would be really helpful. The other thing you might want to look at on content is some of the supporting content, FAQ content. But basically, you know, you need to look what's happening, what's changing. And of course, as things change, the key phrases are going to change as well. Thank you. It was Barracuda. I did remember, and it's the Penguin tool. So this is the ability to overlay with a Chrome extension over your Google organic, results in analytics, and see if you have got a drop in traffic, whether it relates to something to do with a lockdown, which of course it wouldn't mark up, but if it has been due to a core algorithm update, then it may well pick that up. Okay, another thing you want to look at is creating new content. So we did a lot of this at the beginning, and this was a search that I did yesterday and added to the slides, which was marketing during the COVID-19 breakdown. And you can see that our blog article from back in the 15th of April is number 3. So this is still getting us loads of traffic even now. But of course, what you really want to be doing is thinking about what content you need to be writing now that people are going to be looking for going forward. So if you'd been clever, you would, and you make personal protective equipment, or you do health and safety, or you've got a plastics company, you should have been writing about screens and making your office safe and things like that. So there's going to be things going forward that you should be sort of trying to work out what you try to preempt the demand rather than reacting to the demand. So the other thing, of course, is you need to distribute the content widely. So you've got your blogs, you've got social media, you've got email. And we've been doing a regular email every week. A lot of you have come onto this because you've seen our emails. We've kept the template the same. We just do it every Wednesday. We just change the images slightly. We change at the top the next webinar, and we keep that template. And it takes us a couple of hours every Wednesday morning, and Jess very kindly runs that for us. But what I want to raise here is that people are getting COVID and working from home fatigue. They're fed up with seeing tips on how to do virtual meetings, Zoom calls. So what you need to do is start thinking about when you should start to play a different tune. What are the new things you should be talking about coming out of it, rather than being behind the curve and reacting to what everybody else is doing. If you do the same content everybody else is doing, you'll just get lost in the noise. Another thing that you could be doing now is looking at other organic and free activities and channels. So the first one is email, which I've just mentioned. If you haven't already got email and you've only got 2,000 recipients or less, then you should definitely be considering MailChimp. And the big thing about this is creating a template and using it regularly. And because people are at home, there's a lot more emails out there. So you want emails that people want to open because they're going to find it useful. Another thing that you should do is use the trackable links. We've got a little tool on our website. If you go to the section where the webinar pages are, you'll see the 3 UTM URL tool, and that helps you to create these. And the good thing about this is if you change this every time, I've left an old one in here, but every time you send an email, then you can see how effective that email was at generating any conversions or leads or whatever it is you're trying to do. When you do an email, you have to upload your list, or you have to build your list, and then you need to test and send your email. And the important thing here is to make sure that it's mobile responsive, and the pages that are clicked through in the email work on mobile, because approximately 80% will open on their mobile, and they'll probably open on the desktop as well if it's of interest to them. The other thing is timing. You probably want to focus on Tuesday to Thursday because people have got other things to worry about on Monday and Friday. And you don't want to do it too late in the day, because otherwise what's going to happen is it's going to get lost with all the American spam that comes in overnight. And you want to track the performance of the email and also what happens in analytics. And the other thing you should definitely do is have the Facebook pixel on your site, and then you can do remarketing to people that have opened the ads. And also, if you've got Google ads running, you can do this. So I think this is the best one that we've had. This was sent to just under 3,500. We got a really good sort of 95% actually delivered it. Of course, a lot of people are working from home, so they may well go and log into their work email and open it later. And then we had a 28% opening rate and a 3% click-through rate. Another thing you should do is something like the webinars that we've been doing, and we're actually now offering this as a service to help people. There's a really good YouTube video on best webinar software. This is a massive roundup. We ended up with Big Marker, and if anybody wants a little bit more information about that, I can put a link in into the chat later, and add the link to our Big Marker page. Now, there's quite a lot of work in setting this up. We reckon setting up a webinar without creating the slides, I mean, that's separate, that's the presenter's job, but the whole process of setting up the landing page, marketing it through the platform, marketing it through social media, marketing it through your email, and then hosting the webinar, and then sorting out the reporting and the recording afterwards is about a 2-day job per webinar. So and it takes longer the first couple of times because you've got to get used to using Canva. So if you can create some templates and things for the graphics, that will definitely speed it all up. And today we're not using a co-host actually visually, but they are behind there in the background, so they can answer questions. You saw Suk respond for me just a minute ago. But the more interactive they are better. And we are going to do some more panel discussions going forward. And of course, once it's recorded, you can then circulate it and then people can see it afterwards as well. Another thing you might want to consider is PR, and I won't go through the detail of this. It's really important to be up to date with what's actually happening and understand consumer behaviour. And we've had some great success. We've done some really interesting things like Palex, who's a customer. We did a Love Logistics campaign with them, which was like a colouring in, but it was really about highlighting other essential workers. But one of the things that's really important is that you don't want to be doing things that everybody else has already done. So it's really important to get in with your advice very early. And the same message applies. You know, at what point do you just want to stop talking about COVID and talk about something new? And really, if you can work out what your customers are likely to be wanting to do as we go forward. You know, I saw a really good blog from one of my Goldman Sachs colleagues who's starting to talk about the safe places to travel and what the rules are and what you can do, because people are starting to research those long haul holidays for next year. If you have got some marketing budget, you're probably in a different camp, and therefore I wanted to give you some tips around that as well. So one of the things that we do understand is that a lot of people will have either already done this or will need to pause or reduce your ad spending. And of course, this is going to be the people that said earlier on that they're not working at all. You've not got a lot of choice. Unless, of course, you can get something like a bounce back or a Sybil's loan and use that money and invest it in making sure people know that you're there. You could be building your lists. But if you can't, you should invest the time in organic activities, writing content, revamping your website, etc. Another area where you have to be really careful is when demand is really determined very much by people when they buy. So this is price sensitive sectors, things like Google shopping ads, which literally you may need to phase back or have a limited budget, because the thing is that if they're not buying now, they may have forgotten you by at the point they want to buy you. So if you haven't got enough time or money to develop your brand, which is obviously our preferred activity, and if you can do that, that's great, then it might be a good idea to turn this type of advertising off. Another thing is I mentioned this earlier, is if you can pay on a cost per click, that may work out better for you, because impressions are up and you might get a lot of irrelevant traffic, and you really are better off paying for when people actually engage with you and click through to your website. And of course, if they click through to your website or they fill in a landing page form, you've got their email address and you can add them to audiences to do remarketing to them. You may want to redirect your budget. This is all about finding the products and services or the brand phrases that you might want to do instead. So instead of just turning off all your advertising, you really are keeping the lights on and advertising for brand phrases. So I've got an example here to show you of when you really should do this, and this is for Pitney Bowes, which is a franking machine, and you can see that Neopost are actually advertising on their brand term. We've noticed this with Anicca as well. If you do a search on Anicca Digital after the presentation, you'll notice that a couple of other agencies, particularly in the Leicester area, are now bidding on our brand, which means we're going to have to do brand bidding to compete against that, when normally they'd just click on the organic results. The other thing you might want to do is, switch your budget, particularly as some areas there's been massive increases in demand. One of our clients, I'm quite happy to mention their name because we've done case studies with them before. Charles Bentley up in Loughborough. They launched a brand new website pretty recently, and there's been a massive demand for their wonderful garden products and home products, and they've seen huge increases, and we've just had to keep on putting more money into the budget for shopping ads, because every time the weather gets good, there's a great demand for more people wanting to improve their garden and buy more garden furniture and other things to improve the household. Another thing you might want to do is increase brand awareness or enter a new increase brand share. You might want to even enter into a new market or offer new products. But there's also brilliant deals to be had. I mentioned that Gary was on the call, he was on the chat, and Sky and quite a lot of the others. Guardian's got an advert at the moment, a competition, Reach Local, which is the local newspaper group. They've all been offering free advertising, or they've been offering matched advertising. So if you've got enough media spend, you can go to these local trade presses and say, look, match it, give me a deal. Another thing you should also do is use this to test budgets and new channels. So for example, AdSmart you can do from as little as £3,000. You might want to try Spotify, TikTok, all these new channels that you've not tried before. If you've got some money, or you want to use some of your loans to actually, to kickstart your business, this is a good time to do it because it's going to be a lot cheaper. If you're managing your paid ads, I'll skip through this because I know we're getting towards the end now, but there are some tips on actually managing your paid ads. This is both Google and the paid search and Bing. So first of all, you want to look at Google Trends, and this is as things drop off or increase, and think more long term. So you might want to adjust the keywords that you actually, and the ads and the audiences that you're actually targeting, because you might want to be thinking about driving brand awareness and education pieces and consideration, and you might not be quite so focused on conversions until later on. Another great tip, these tips are actually from Holly. I'm not sure if Holly's on the call today, and if you want any help on advice from Holly and the paid team, we can get them to talk to you as well. If you're doing international markets, which a lot of our clients are, you need to be much more responsive to what's happening overseas, because those markets are changing probably faster, and a lot of them have come out of lockdown much quicker. So don't just be UK centric, particularly if you are paying for marketing overseas. And you really do need to be reactive, and this is going to be both as things come in and things come out. So you might want to just pause specific elements. You can use labels within the campaign so you can easily relaunch them when you need to. You might want to have seen changes in click-through rates and average cost per clicks in some. So you might give you a little bit more room with regards to cost per acquisition or return on ad spend. However, that could change in the other way. And we have seen huge amounts of variability. And I'm going to show you an example of how this has had an adverse effect in the next slide. But basically, please don't leave your account. We were talking to one company and they hadn't looked at their account for 2 months, and they got a real shock. They started to notice they searched themselves, they weren't seeing themselves anymore. And this was because basically nobody had been in and checked it, and they didn't realize that demand was increasing. Now, in their case, what had actually happened, they'd seen a massive increase in demand and more competition. But I just want to talk about this one first, because this is really important. And it was really interesting talking to my colleagues in the States this week, because what they said was that their local shops had been open. Some of them had been open the whole way through the COVID crisis, but now they were closing because there was riots in their towns, and they couldn't afford to stay open. And I really want to make people aware that you have to be really sensitive at the moment. We've got a very diverse agency. A third of our staff are from the BAME community. We've had we've had terrible statistics about how the BAME community have been disproportionately affected by COVID, and there's a much higher death rate for that particular community, and also certain communities like the people that have got disabilities, people with autism, etc. They've all struggled, and there's lots of mental health issues. So you have to make sure that your messaging and your tone is correct and it's up to date. So please be careful of the changing situation. It doesn't really matter what community you talk to. Don't be stupid. I could say something else, but I won't. But don't be something that you're going to be look back and think, oh my God, why did I say that? Another thing you need to be careful is the automation. If you rely on automation with your bidding strategies, and a lot of the bidding strategies in with Google are optional. You can choose. You just have to be aware that there's a lot less information. You're getting massive swings, and this really does mess up what's happening. And also, you might have opportunity to have more efficient or increase and change your bids, but you need to be in every week, or even in some cases daily, checking this out. Another area that we've seen, which was what I wanted to talk, I mentioned earlier on, is the increased supply and demand. If you've got big swings in this, and it doesn't matter which way round it goes, it's going to have a massive impact. So if you've got a lot of demand for your service, then obviously that's going to be great for you. But if you've got a lot less demand, a lot less customers, but lots of your competitors are fighting for those limited number of customers, what's going to happen is they're going to increase their bids, and there's going to be a bidding war. And what will happen is that as they increase their bids, your positions and your visibility will drop, and you may even end up on the second page, which is really going to mess up things. And you're going to end up with a lot less visibility, a lot less impressions, clicks, and conversions. And and you may, even though there's less demand, you're just not going to be there. So it's really, really important that you actually keep up to date with things like your cost per clicks, your impression shares, the top of page views, and actually check this. And you might have to pay more to compete. Another area is Google. They've made grants available, but you do need, this is up to £1,000. We've not seen it in the UK yet. It has been launched in the States. We're expecting this to come through. Now, you will only get this if you ran ads for 10 months last year and the beginning of this year. They've also announced some other things. If you're an e-commerce website and you need some help on this, we can help with setting up Google shopping feeds, particularly if you're retail and you've set up a brand new e-commerce site, you may need some help with this as well. And you're going to need a plugin. There's lots of great plugins in order to get your feed, your product feed through to Google Merchant Center. But just be aware, these free shopping ads that they're advertising, it only is on the shopping tab. Most of the visitors and searches are made on the main pages, and you are going to have to pay to remain on the main page. Review or paid social. Again, you want to review your budgets more often. The cost per 1,000 impressions is definitely cheaper. We're finding that the cost of downloads of the A10 has dropped from nearly £3 to around £2, so it's about 2/3 of the price. You want to look at different ad messages and formats. I definitely recommend that you look at video. Video view advertising, particularly if you're doing brand awareness, is incredibly cheap at the moment, and that's across all platforms, including LinkedIn. You want to create new audiences based on remarketing. Build those audiences and build your organic following, because then what's available is those audiences can be used when people are ready to buy, and you can actually create what we call sequential campaigns. And that was the subject of last week's talk, which you may want to go back to. And yeah, why not create a new organic following if you've not done Instagram before? Chris is talking about that next week. Another thing is that Facebook are also offering business grants. I checked again yesterday. This is still not available. So there's a lot of talk about this, but I'm guessing that a lot of these grants will go to the USA first. But if we see anything, we will highlight that for you. Some of the other activities that you can do now, I've already mentioned the A10 planning and network, but why not, why don't you join a network event? Lee, who is also in our call today, Lee's head of business development, and he's fielding any calls. If anybody needs any help, he's on the call. But he's joined a local BNI group in order to get to know local people. It's all virtual at the moment, but that's a great way. And if you do searches, there's lots of networks going online. And this is the planning ahead. I've got some great resources on the website, plus the free downloads. But what you really need to be doing now is not only planning your marketing and the strategy going forward, but I've had to spend 2 or 3 days with the directors and the senior management team just working out how we're going to return to work and what's going to happen. Because from the 1st of July, of course, we can now work, staff can work part-time. And as demand and we get more inquiries and people start to come back, we've now got to manage that and manage both the staff expectation and clients' expectation and match the two. We're also bringing some staff back to help with our own marketing. And it's just sort of managing internal comms and keeping everybody happy and communicating more often than normal. Another thing that you might be thinking about is product development and diversification. And we've been doing a lot of head scratching and ideas around this. And if you've not seen this before, this is the Ansoff matrix of product and market development. It's the concept of, do you develop new products? Do you focus on your existing ones or develop new ones, or do you develop new markets? Or do you penetrate and sell other things into your existing market, or find new markets? So ours is very much around offering new services around the sort of concept that people are doing more stuff virtually, more working from home. Obviously, we're B2B, so a lot of our clients are working from home. So we're now offering virtual event management services. We're partnering with some of our other clients to offer that. And we've also had to take our digital marketing qualification. We were due to run that next week. Unfortunately, we can't open the office yet. So what we do, we're going to wait until the office is open, and then we'll have a combo or a hybrid of people actually in our training centre, which happens to be massive. So you can get loads of people in there, but then we will broadcast it live. So if we've got delegates, they don't even have to be in the UK, they can join virtually. And finally, on the last slide of my presentation, it's really around learning new skills. These are a whole load of free and resources that you can use. If you haven't already done so, please sign up to Anicca Academy. We're giving free access to all the training materials. Unfortunately, we can't give you access to the DMI qualification, because that's locked down for the paying qualification section of the course. But there's also loads of other great resources there which you might want to tune into. So just a couple of the other free resources that we've got there. I'll just bring up one of the offers, which is the free resources. This will allow you to click on this so you can go and open this up. So if you're interested in accessing the Anicca Academy, you can just request access to that. That should be pinned at the top now. And then finally, before we go to Q&A, a plug for Chris's, which hopefully Chris can join on the call if he's available. If not, we'll get Jess on the call. And this is next week's webinar. Let's see if he can beat us today. And he's going to do an introduction to Instagram. And this is for B2B and B2C businesses. There's a little bit of extra detail around e-commerce, because you can create a catalogue, and it's really great for Instagram shopping. But we just wanted to make you aware that some of our best results for our downloads have been in Instagram. So don't think Instagram doesn't apply to you if you've got a B2B business. And so please do sign up for that. And we're also going to be covering a little bit on running ads through Facebook Ads Manager as well. Okay, so I'm not sure if I've got anybody else, whether Chris or Jess can join me on the call. Okay, so the LinkedIn ads page, please. So, right, okay, so the way that you get to this, if I share my screen, I can demo it. Let me go to Chrome tab. If anybody's got any other questions, let me just share my entire screen. It's a little bit easier. Okay, so if you go to work and click down here, you've got advertise top right. If you click on advertise, what happens is it will open campaign manager accounts, or you will create a campaign manager account. This is going to bring up all of our sales. Oh, we've got somebody on the call. That's good. And then if we go here, we've got campaign performance, website demographics, and we'll be able to see the stuff I showed you earlier on. Somebody sounds like they're in the garden. Let me change that to stop sharing, and let me show the slides. Okay, so one question, that was just Philip. So if we haven't got any more questions, let me see if there's any in the chats, because I know sometimes we have a bit of a problem with the Q&A. I hope that that was really useful. There's a couple of emails from the guys here. Suk and Lee have added their email address. If you want any help at all, please come back to me. And hopefully you've enjoyed that, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Sorry I've not got any co-host today, but hopefully next week we'll have a few more people to help with the presentation. So have a great day, guys. Thank you very much, and I look forward to I'm not here next week, but I look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you.